And turning now to the toxic train derailment in Ohio. But it's not just in the Buckeye State, but you can see the 4 that happened this month, train derailments from Oregon to Texas to South Carolina, and as mentioned, East Palestine, Ohio. Now, the derailment in Ohio, though, causing major concern about the health and safety of residents after toxic chemicals, including vinyl chloride and others, were released in a controlled burn.
And we're seeing new video today that's raising questions about the derailment, about 20 miles or 45 minutes from where the train derailed. Security footage catching a glow from the underside of the train. Officials with the National Transportation Safety Board said they believe the mechanical issue was one of the rail car axles was responsible for the crash. And upon crashing, a fire broke out. But this footage would appear to indicate a fire broke out before the derailment.
We have ongoing team coverage with James Rosen at the White House and Logan Ratick in our D.C. newsroom.
First, let's check in with James Rosen for the latest. James.
Bob and Katrina, good afternoon. Senior White House officials say that officials from the Environmental Protection Agency and the National Transportation Safety Board have been on the ground in East Palestine, Ohio, since the day after 38 rail cars, 11 of them carrying hazardous materials, derailed and then set fire to another dozen cars. Residents were evacuated from East Palestine for 5 days as technicians conducted controlled burns to dispose of chemicals. With reports of animals dying from toxic fumes, the EPA has been testing air quality and been supporting Ohio State environmental officials with surface and groundwater testing. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the president has been briefed on the situation. That led veteran White House correspondent George Condon, a past president of the White House Correspondents Association, to ask Karine Jean-Pierre at yesterday's press briefing, quote, "Can we get some sense of whether there's a sense of urgency or concern about human life?"
So look, we're always concerned about human life. That's what I said at the top, right? I said that our #1 priority is the health and the safety of the community. That is our #1 priority here. That's what EPA is doing on the ground.
So the administration defending the overall handling of this catastrophe. However, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has faced mounting criticism for failing to address publicly the East Palestine catastrophe for some 10 days. Bob and Katrina.
All right, James, thanks so much. So what is Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg doing about all of this? That is the question of the week. National correspondent Logan Ratick is live in Washington with those details. Logan.
Well, Katrina, that's something we're still trying to figure out here in Washington because, as James mentioned, Buttigieg has not addressed this catastrophe, at least verbally. He's done a couple of times on Twitter, but he's also been trying to talk about what his department has been doing to make sure that this doesn't happen. But again, we know that it did happen, and it's a major issue. Buttigieg has had a turbulent tenure as transportation secretary from the start. First, there was a major supply chain crisis during which he was criticized by both Republicans and Democrats. Republicans also slamming him for not coming back early from paternity leave. And now tensions with China, they are beginning to impact the supply chain. And then there was the Southwest Airlines debacle. More than 24 House Democrats said Buttigieg did not do enough to help customers stranded over the holidays because of the issues with Southwest. And now the train derailment in Ohio. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, tributaries along the Ohio River are contaminated, and there are a growing number of reports about people experiencing a burning sensation in their eyes, with animals falling ill and a strong odor lingering in the town. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is asking Congress to look into why the Norfolk Southern train was not categorized as a high hazardous materials train. All of this happening as Secretary Buttigieg is publicly focused on diversity.
To work with your contractors, to work with your community colleges on building a workforce that reflects the community. We have heard way too many stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, often a neighborhood of color, that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in the hard hats on that project looking like, doing the good paying jobs, don't look like they came from anywhere near the neighborhood.
And Congressman Jim Banks is urging Secretary Buttigieg to take action after a painting of Jesus at the Merchant Marine Academy was reportedly covered up. The Merchant Marines are under the jurisdiction of the Transportation Department. Buttigieg has not commented on that either, but he did have time to invite a liberal podcast host into the Department of Transportation for a conversation about the GOP-led House.
And maybe he doesn't feel like he can afford to lose even the most disgraced or extreme member of his caucus. I get that, but that's a them problem.
So Secretary Buttigieg apparently has a lot of time to play political analyst, but apparently not talk about the derailment. He has not visited East Palestine yet, and even Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a far-left Democrat, she's criticizing Buttigieg for his handling of this train derailment. Bob.
All right, Logan, thank you very much.